Hey everyone, this is Kristin. Welcome back to Authors Aloud. Ashley, I am so excited about today's episode.
Today, we're diving into the world of a long-running, laugh-out-loud mystery series that's kept readers turning pages for years.
And has kept me employed since about 2010. So our guest today is Julie Moffett. She's written not one, not five, but 16 and counting in the Lexi Carmichael mystery series, starring her brilliant geek girl heroine who somehow stumbles into trouble at every turn. It's really fun.
We'll talk about how she's kept the series fresh, the YA spinoff, and her other books.
So we want to dig into what goes into balancing humor with mystery and maybe snag a little advice for all the writers who are listening. So let's get into it. Welcome, Julie. Oh, I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you.
So 16 books. That's an incredible accomplishment. For listeners who haven't yet met Lexi, how would you describe her in just, well, let's try for 3 words.
Oh, only 3? Okay.
Try.
Definitely geeky has to be number 1.
Yes.
She's geeky, she's authentic, and she's loyal. I think those would probably be the top 3. She is who she is, and she doesn't make friends easily, but those friends that she makes, she will keep forever.
Absolutely. I love that.
But go back, Kristin, how has Lexi Carmichael and Julie Moffett kept you employed since 2010?
So I don't know if we've talked about it on here that much, but I do audiobook narration. I've been doing it since about 2009. When I was working at Audible, Julie was publishing with Carina.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
Carina Press, who Audible did the books for. I can't believe I remember that. And her very first book they gave me, Julie was happy with my work. And every time a Lexi book comes out, I hear from Julie and we get it recorded.
Yep.
So I have been with Lexi for a lot of years. I've seen her through it all. Yeah. Yeah.
Kristin, you probably know Lexi as well as I do.
Honestly, I feel like I do. And like this last book that we recorded, I felt like, oh yeah, I know these people. Like it felt like home in that way. Like, oh yeah, I know this world. I know these people. I know what they're thinking, like it was awesome. Tell me the first time, like, how did this series come about? Did you imagine that it would run this long?
So I honestly wasn't sure how many books I could do. So when I first wanted to create a character, I was actually decided in my head that I would create an antithesis to a James Bond character. So I wanted to do exactly the antithesis. So instead of being a male, it would be a female. Instead of being suave and debonair, they would be geeky and totally not social at all.
Awkward. Yeah.
Totally. Instead of being a, MI5 or MI6, I forgot which if he's a 5 or 6, but instead of being this like incredible spy, she would be dragged into spy stuff. But in all cases, she would exceed or do better than even James Bond. So basically, she saved the world in her own backwards way in an antithesis. And as a nod to that, I sort of made my first book a play off the James Bond movie. So the first book in the Lexi Carmichael series is called No One Lives Twice, which is just a shade off of You Only Live Once.
Yeah.
Kind of that little, so that's how I created the character of Lexi Carmichael. And it was easy for me because my entire family are geeks. We are like, you could just walk into my family, engineers, Google people, mathematicians, geophysicists. This is my family, right? So I was like, well, this is great. I got the most, rich material to draw upon. And I can make my characters realistic and authentic because I see this around me all the time. And I interact with this all the time. So it was very natural for me to be able to write the dialogue, to create the character in many ways, like a lot of people in my family. It was fun, but easy.
That is amazing. I love that so much. I'm going to give Ashley a second. I know she's dealing with something. Hi. We just gave you a second.
Thank you. I had a kiddo who Woke up at
Doesn't
9:30 in the summer, which has never happened in the history of summers. Stomping around.
no
I'm a
problem at all.
teenager. I get you. Well,
Yeah. Yeah. So, what do you think is the secret to keeping a character like Lexi and Slash and Baja and all of the characters? What is the key to keeping them fresh and engaging after so many adventures? Because sometimes, I'll be honest with you, Julie, sometimes as I read these books, I think they all need a nap. Like, it's just one thing after another, right? So what is that key to keeping them fresh and engaging?
So when I started this series, the first thing I did was created a character arc because honestly, most books, it's not so much the plot, like, it's the character. How does the character change and develop over the
Mm.
series?
Mm-hmm.
And so you kind of start almost at the beginning. You start almost to a little bit of an extreme. So the person is so geeky, so that you can show how they evolve over a
Right.
series. And that goes with not just Lexi, but every character has to have a character arc. So how are they going to change over all the books?
Sure.
And then once you have the character arc, then you fit, then what's a natural development for that? Because you don't want them to
Right.
jump from this spot to that spot. They
Yeah.
have to go because people don't change fast. Change
Sure.
is scary, change takes time, and the littlest things can be important in a change. So it's just sort of trying to keep each character authentic within their character arc, and everybody has to change. If everybody stays the same, or in the main character is the only one changing, that's not authentic either.
Right.
So
Right.
I always have to look at where is everybody's character, mentally, physically, emotionally for each book, and then play into those things, fears, things that they're going to change, things
Right.
they mess up, because we all mess up, and that's what makes people relatable, characters as well. You're not going to, how am I going to relate to this flawless person? I'm not, but I am going to relate to people who mess up, say stupid things, do stupid things occasionally, not all the
Yeah.
time, occasionally, and this kind of thing. So you want to make your characters relatable so that the reader feels like, oh, come on, you can do it. You want their character invested in your characters. You
It
want
is
your
one of the things I love about these books is that there's so much grace all of the friends give each other, right?
Mm.
There's a lot of grace, there's a lot of love,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of you are who you are, I accept you for who you are, and now you're changing and I accept that too. It's really great. It's really, really great. And feels a little unusual for a mystery series, right? Yeah, it's really super fun.
Well, for me, it was seeing how funny these mysteries really are, and it's such a distinct balance. Julie, how do you keep tension high while still weaving in some real laugh out loud moments?
I can't remember where I read it, but it was like something like I read it from, I think Charlie Chaplin had wrote at one point. He had written something that humor is best when it's not expected. Like something along those lines. I'm probably totally messing up that quote, but something along those lines he said. And that really made me think that, when everybody's expecting something funny to happen, it's not as funny.
Right.
But when it happens at the most inopportune time, when it just happens when the reader is not expecting it, you can't help but go, oh, like, are you kidding me? Like,
Right.
that's crazy. And so that's how I try to approach the moment. Like it just comes out of nowhere. And I always try to make it so that in the moment that you think it might be funny, it not may not necessarily be. But when it's the most like wrong time for something to be funny, that's when it's the funniest. And so I
Yeah.
always try to keep that in mind, like the actor who slips on the banana peel, right? And you're expecting just to
Obvious.
fall,
Yeah.
right? But instead, the actor comes up, he sees the banana peel, jumps over it, but then falls in a hole. So you're like,
Right.
oh, he thinks I'm good, but then he actually slips in a
Yeah.
hole. So it's kind of that kind of unexpected humor that I try to place, and
Yeah.
it's hard because everybody's everybody's humor level is different. So you kind of just have to do your best, and some people will get it, some people won't get it. So you just have to, go with the flow.
Well, as an actor, that's a thing for sure. You don't play the humor. You really try not to play the humor. So as Lexi, I for sure try to not play the humor, but there are so many moments, right, that are that are funny. They're just funny. I want to talk a little bit. I'm really interested in this question. We'll get into the spinoff because that's an obvious part of this question. But what I want to know is when you started this book, I think I know the answer, but who are the characters who you found demanded more space? They needed to be more involved in the story than you originally thought that they would.
That's a hard question because my process is to create the characters first and their character
Right.
arcs.
Right.
So I kind of going in even to the first story, I had the 5 main characters to start with, and that was Lexi, Elvis, Xavier,
Xavier.
Flash. Those are my 5 main characters, and all of those had the arc from the beginning. So, but I'll be honest with you, I wasn't sure who she was going to end up with. Yeah. I'll be honest. I really didn't know. So I said, well, I'm just going to let the romance kind of play out and see where it falls naturally to me, like as if I was Lexi and I'm living this, and how does it play out? And, so I don't want to spoil.
I don't either, but it's real hard.
But
I have to tell you.
Okay.
I have to tell you that I'm happy where she's ended up, but in the beginning, I was pulling for the other side.
I know.
For sure.
I know.
But I really thought it was going to go there, but I am very happy where it ended up.
Well, and when it came to that point where it was a natural development for the character to kind of decide what she was going to do, I really had to play it out in terms of the character's needs. And to me, the person that she ended up was the person who needed her the most.
Yeah, that's true.
And she also needed that person the most, because sometimes in order to grow, you need somebody who's going to push you out of your comfort zone. Because sometimes when you go with someone who's in your comfort zone, and that's fine because some people grow within their comfort zone. But for me, it was a way out for Lexi. So I needed her to be able to grow and be uncomfortable, because if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. And so for me, that was how and it was very painful. And so I hope that when I explained those parts of the books that I got that tension and that honest, authentic pain, which happens when you love somebody, but it's just not gonna work out.
No, I think you did a great job with that. I am curious if you knew the spinoff. Talk a little bit about the spinoff and talk a little bit. Did you know that was going to happen? Or when you wrote that book at the school, did you go, oh?
So no, actually, I did not know that was going to happen at all. But what was really funny was I was getting an inordinate amount of fan mail from younger people. I mean, as young as 10 and 11 years old, people were sending me fan mails. I love Lexi, and I'm like thinking, okay, well, we kind of have a little bit. I mean, there was no sex on page or anything. It's not, but still, it was more adult or young adult themes rather than, more really
teens. Yeah.
But yet I was really getting tons of mail. And in fact, my publisher, I think my Lexi books have undergone 5 cover changes.
Yeah.
So they redid the cover to draw in more of the younger crowd. And that worked because I got a lot more younger. And I thought, well, why don't I do a spinoff? So this wasn't until book 10.
Uh-huh.
And so in book 10, I introduced the character of Gwen's younger sister, Angel. And so I put her in there, a young Lexi kind of type thing, except she was a little, probably similar in many ways, but still some kind of different. But she also idolized Lexi. So she created the Lexi fan club, which was just absolutely mortifying to Lexi. But so it sort of gave her like, I'm looking up to you kind of, I want to be a hacker like you. I want to, be good in science and math and that kind of stuff, which I really enjoy promoting that for.
Sure.
And so when I created the character, that's in book 10 is when I knew I was going to do the spinoff. So I created the character of Angel, and then I was able to do the spinoff. And it was great because, believe me, I've been getting, since I've written that series, I think I can't remember when I wrote that. I think over COVID, over COVID era. I've gotten lots of like people writing book reports, kids sending me their book reports. wrote on it. Yeah, and people going for, like, a literature day. I actually had
That's
some send
amazing.
me a picture with them with the hat, and they went as, went as Angel, and it was just, I mean, I just absolutely love that. Like, that's really super
That's
special to
so
me.
cool.
So,
What's
um,
the title of the spinoff?
the series is called the White Knight series, and there's 3 books trilogy right now. It's, White Knights, Night Moves, and One Night Stand, all with the K, night, that,
That's
so, yeah.
amazing. That's so
Mhm.
great.
Let's talk about what it takes behind the keyboard. Um, Julie, what is your writing rhythm these days? Do you still draft like you did for book 1, or has your process evolved now that you're at book 16?
So, for many, 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 many years, held a day job and wrote. So writing was sort of my second job, but I also wrote for my day job. So it was just writing all the time. But when I started out, there's like in writers, we like to joke about ourselves. There's 2 kinds of writers. There's pantsters and there's plotters. And pantsters are the people that write by the seat of their pants. They do not know what's going to happen in the book. If they know what's going to happen when they start writing, the creative process is over. Like, they can't
Huh.
do it. And to my astonishment, I would say, for people I know, I would say 90% of writers seem to be pantsters. I, on the other hand,
Oh,
the plotter.
yeah.
I have spreadsheets. I'm like Lexi. I have spreadsheets. I have well, you can see, I'll show you. I have the big science fair board.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
The one that opens here. You can probably
Yeah,
see it.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I have that. And I have sticky notes, and so I basically plot everything.
So you kind of
So
storyboard it almost like a
I
movie.
storyboard it like a movie. Almost, yeah.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I kind of see it in my head like a movie as I'm
Yeah.
writing. So I have different sticky notes for, like, okay, so blue sticky notes are emotions, red sticky notes are like the love story, yellow sticky notes are the action, and then I put them all, and then I can change them around. Like, if the action doesn't fit, I can just put the sticky note over here in chapter whatever, and so I kind of do that.
Yeah.
I did that for many, 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 many years. I would say probably up through book 14.
Uh-huh.
And then by about 15, I don't use the storyboard anymore. It's still here, but I don't really use it. I become better at just knowing things.
Sure.
So I just kind of write, and then it's easier for me to move things around. So I don't do it as much as I did before, which I kind of miss. And sometimes if I'm stuck on something, I'll pull the storyboard out and put some stuff so I can visualize why it's not working or something like that. So,
It is
So,
amazing.
but I'm not normal. I'm like, you don't do that. And they're like, no, I don't even know what to do. I'm not sure who I'm going to have the killer be. And I'm like, how can you do that? Like, I usually often work backwards. Okay, I know this is how the chapter's going to end, and now I just have to get there. So I already know what's happening all at the end, and it's just all my threads and everything has to tie into that end. But everyone's like, oh, that's terrible. Like, I would just lose interest. And I'm like,
so this many books, 16, I mean, technically it's 15 and a half, but we're going to call it 16. 16 books means 16 deadlines. Not to mention, you said you probably in total have, what, 30-something books?
30,
So
yeah.
that's 32 deadlines.
mm-hmm.
How do you keep your creative spark alive under that much pressure?
It depends. Sometimes it's really hard. Like, I'm exhausted, and I
Yeah.
had single mom, 2 kids. It's a lot, and a full-time job on top of the writing. Sometimes it got to be a lot. So I won't lie.
Yeah.
But you pull through. You got to do what you got to do. You got to put roof over their heads, and you got to put food on the table, and you get it done. You tell yourself you can get it done, and so you do. So, but
Spoken like a true mom.
Right?
it really is. It really is. So yeah. So sometimes it's just you've got to. But I do have to say that I really do thank Lexi for helping me do that. So, like, the best thing I ever did was make up somebody that can help me make money. So. So yeah, so I appreciate that.
Oh, that's
There been
hilarious.
moments where your heroine, Lexi, made a decision that you didn't plan, but you kind of had to roll with?
Yeah, all the time, because I
Really?
am like writing along and I have this going on, and then suddenly, because I basically, I don't know if other authors do this, because sometimes I think like I'm just so weird, but I see it in my head. Like, I'm seeing the scene in my head, and as they're talking, I am like just like dictating. They're dictating to me
Yeah.
what. And then sometimes they say something and I'm like, stop. I'm like, what? like, no, that's not on the sticky note, you know? But it was just kind of a natural thing that came out. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, so where are we going with this? And then I kind of like just go and see where it goes. Sometimes it's just, no, I'm sorry, we're not doing that, you know? And other times it takes me in an interesting direction. So I just kind of go with the flow and see what happens, you know? So,
A fun fact about Julie that I learned on
yeah.
book 16. I'm going to out you. So Julie recorded with us at My Audio Rocks. I did the narration. We did 2 books together just recently. We did these books, loved doing them. Part of our process is we send the files to Julie, the author, to listen to and tell us, do you approve these? If so, we'll go through the next phase that we have to go through and then we can get her the files. Julie says, I don't listen to my audiobooks. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
She's like, I can't. It's like my character, like they're talking to me. I know them. I can't have the voices in my head talking to me through a speaker, right? And I was
That
like,
is a true story.
Julie,
This is a true story.
Julie, you have never fully listened to one of these audiobooks. And she was like, nope. So she had her 2 assistants listen to them and we gave them some guidelines. But I love
that's
the
wild.
ideal that Julie was like, I can't have the voices in my head speaking at me like in real time.
No, I was going to feel that way. So this goes all the way back to 2010.
That's
So the
hilarious.
first time I was really excited to have my first audiobook, like, oh, this is so exciting. And so then I turn it on and I hear Kristin, announcing that, but this is, the book coming out, blah, 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 blah. And then she starts reading the dialogue and I'm like, oh, full stop. No. It was just, I don't know. It's just like, I can't, the voices in my head talking to me out loud.
I get it.
I can't do it. I can listen to other audiobooks. I don't know, but just listening to my own was
Hey,
just, yeah.
I love that you have a limit there, and I think it's the cutest thing I've ever heard. So, in my
There's
opinion,
lots of things in the writing and publishing process that I think are so challenging in ways you don't even expect them to be. And I've had several things that really, really surprised me. After my book launched, I had a big book launch party, and then I went to bed for like a week. I was so I don't know, like there was a vulnerability hangover, or it was a very strange reaction. I really surprised myself.
Well, it's literally your ideas. And you're saying, hey, people, like this,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
That's hard. That is hard.
Yeah, it's really vulnerable. And I felt I do a fair amount of public speaking, and I'm on LinkedIn all the time. There was just something about a book and my words being in someone else's hands to interpret as they want, and there was just something about it that I found very, very vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, Julie, on this podcast, we normally talk to first-time writers, writers who, it's their first book that's come out within the last couple of years, or maybe they've written 2 books, but they tend to be, new writers, baby writers in some ways. You are a seasoned writer. And I want to get into a couple of questions around that, maybe some advice you can give. There are a lot of people that dream of writing a book and dream of writing a series, right? But they can barely get through one book. What's your best advice for sustaining a long-running series?
First of all, probably 90% of people say, oh, I'm going to write a book someday.
Right.
And they get started. But you know how many people actually finish that book? Probably 5%.
Wow.
So if you want to write a book, write the whole thing. Don't say, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to write a book, write a chapter. You need to write the whole book. And once you've done that, then you are as good as 5% of all writers.
Wow.
Because you've got to finish a book. You've got to finish the whole thing. And once you do that and you can write a whole book, then half the battle is done. You know you can do it. You know you can do it. The other thing I would advise new writers is that don't let anybody tell you what the process is. There is no process. There is no secret handshake. There's
Yeah.
no secret system. There's no magic creative sauce that you could take. Your process is going to be different than anybody else's process. Don't let people say there's only one way to write a book. You have to do it this way. You have to do it that way. As I told you about pantsers and plotters, I mean, everybody has a different process, and you have to find the process that's authentic to you, because if you try to write in somebody else's process, your product is not going to be authentic. It's going to, and the reader is going to know that. Trust me.
I
So
would suspect, like anything else in life, you have to figure that out too.
yeah,
You're
it's
not
it's
going to know on day one what your process is.
it's a creative process, just like painting, just like singing. You have to find you. Where
Right.
is you in that process? Where is
Right.
you as a painter? Yes, you can paint just as good or just in the same process as Van Gogh, but is that you?
You're
And if
right.
that is, hooray. But if
Yeah.
that's not, then you're not being authentic. So you have to find you, your voice, your style, your process. There is none. I could talk all day about my process, but that process is not going to work for a lot of people. And that's
Yeah.
okay,
Mhm.
because that's not their process. That's my process. That's not yours. So you do what makes you more efficient. You do you, which makes more sense, which makes you feel proud of your product. You have to be you. And I really cannot stress that enough, that, you can read all these books, and books are good because they do give helpful advice. I mean, before I started writing, my very first book was a romance novel, because when I decided to write a book, I went and researched the market, and I saw that the most fiction novels that were selling were romance. So, okay, if I'm going to break in to
Mhm.
publishing, I'm going to write romance because I got the better chance. And then I checked out a book from the library called How to Write a Romance and Get It Published. I did. And it
Yeah,
was by
of course.
Catherine Falk, and I think I still have the book somewhere here. And so I read that book, and it really gave me good advice, is some structural things, and that was
Mhm.
fine. And that was really helpful. So you can read books to learn. I mean, Stephen King's book on writing, and Christopher Vogel's book on the
Sure.
journey of the writer, those are all books that are helpful in helping you become who you are. But then there comes a point where your process has to become yours. You have to own it.
Yep.
And your creativeness and all of that has to be
Yep.
able to flow properly. So that's my advice. My best advice for new writers is be authentic to your process and to finish the book.
I
At least
really relate to what you're saying, and listening to you makes me think, Julie, do you do public speaking? Because you should speak
I was
on
so
this.
nervous before this. I was so nervous before this podcast.
Julie, really, you should put together because you're engaging, and B, you have so many good ideas. But I really relate to what you're saying, because as a singer, which is how I started out,
Mhm.
I got into acting as I went along. But as a singer, I went through 4 voice teachers, and I was in my mid to late I was in my early 30s by the time I found the voice teacher that I was doing fine as a singer. But in my 30s, I found that voice teacher that helped me fully understand my
Mm.
voice, because the process needed to be different for me. It's a hobby for me, but I paint. I started out by mimicking. I started out by somebody teaching me step by step. Now I play with my own process,
Exactly.
right? So I love that idea that maybe in the beginning you do have to only take advice and go,
Mhm.
let me just do exactly what someone, or let me mimic, or let me, whatever. And then you grow. I think it's when you get stuck in mimicry that
Yeah.
becomes hacky,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But if you continue to grow and learn your own process, then you grow into this beautiful whatever you are, right?
I love that so much. I also really love the idea that, listen, 5% of people finish the book. So just get there and you're ahead of 95% of the people.
There you go.
It's really resonant.
Yeah, that's really great. That's really great.
But tell me, Julie, what do you wish someone had told you before book 1 was published?
Well, I published my first book back in 1993. It was that romance I was talking to you about, where I read it. And it was interesting because the process was, back in those days, I'm really dating myself as being very old. But back in those days, it was publisher, and you had to have an agent, or you could submit cold, as they called it, to the slush pile. And I was a journalist, but I had never tried to write a fiction novel, and I always said I was going to. So I wrote it, and I wrote it all the way to the end after researching and reading. And I didn't have an agent. I didn't think I could get one. I wasn't sure that the book would even sell. So, but I submitted it cold to the slush pile to about 5 different publishers. And then they said, okay, you have to wait anywhere from 6 months to 1 year to hear back for cold submissions. So I was like, all right. And I had gone to the library and pulled out the book of editors, and had
Mhm.
written down all the And so about 2 weeks later, I got a call, and all my friends, everybody knew that I was writing this book and submitting it and all this. And so about 2 weeks later, I was at work and I got this call, and it was like 2 weeks. And this lady was like, hey, are you Julie? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, hey, well, I'm so-and-so from, I think it was Alicia Condon from Leisure Books in New York. And she's like, hey, I read your book and we want to buy it. And I was like, okay, which of my I really said this. Okay, come on, you guys. Like, this is not funny. I said, I'm really nervous about, she's like, no, I really am. And then finally, after a while, she convinced me it was really her. And I'm like, I thought it was supposed to take 6 months to a year. And she's like, yeah, but I don't know. Some random person grabbed, one of our random readers read it and said, you have to buy this book. And so I was like, she did, and I was so shocked. Like, I hadn't even had time, like, to research what comes after if somebody wants to buy your book. I didn't even
Yeah.
get that far because I thought I had 6 months. That I said, yes, I'll sell my book to you. Yes, if you want to buy it, you can have it. Like, I was like, you can have it for free kind of thing. They were like, and she was like, okay. And then what did she know? Like I would say maybe a month later, I got a call from somebody else who wanted to buy it. And they were going to offer me more money. It already sold it to the other person. That was how I started off, and really thinking that it was just a joke. But
That's literally something out of a romantic comedy.
It's crazy.
Where you answer the phone.
And I really did think it was my friends calling me. I'm like, come on, you guys. Like, this isn't funny. They're like, no, Julie, this is really Alicia Condon from Leisure Books. And
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So I in this same vein, one final question about sort of your process. When you're thinking about character growth, and you talked about how your story arc before, which tells me that there's an ending to Lexi at some point, and that hurts my heart a little. But I know it can't go on forever. When you approach character growth, is it different when you're going to spend 16 books on something, on a character, or if it's just going to be a 1 book or 3 books or something like that? Do you approach it differently at all?
So that's a really insightful question, and it's also a super difficult question for a couple of reasons. One is because, again, when I was reading about writing a series, because I have read books on how to do things, just like I was saying earlier, like what are some other people's processes, like would any of those processes work for my process, and this kind of stuff. But when I was reading about writing a long-running series, one of the things is that you kind of have an end in mind so that you can create your character arc to get to that point. But the problem with that process is that you don't know how long. What is long-running series? What does that mean? Is that 4 books? Is that 5 books? Is that 10 books? What is that? So as a writer, if you're writing and you're not sure, like if I'm going to write 7 books, then you can know exactly what the character arc is going to be, because this has to happen in this book. This has to happen until you get to here. So it's very good. But when you're doing an open-ended series, it's different. So when I decided to approach Lexi, I decided to take the open-ended. I don't know. I know what the end is, but I'm not sure how long it's going to take.
Got it.
And everything I had read and researched showed that with a series, if your series is not picking up by book 3 or 4, close it out.
Got it.
If you're not getting a lot, if your readership is not growing exponentially by book 3 or 4, then, wind it down. And then you can, at that point, decide this has to happen to get to that. That's what I read somewhere. Now, is that true? I don't even know if there's any statistics to back that up, but somebody had said that they had read and, done some statistics, and kind of showed that was about book 3 or 4. And I remember asking my editor about book 3 or 4, like, what are we doing here? And so my book was okay. It was selling okay. It got an audiobook, and it was getting, exposure by Worldwide Mystery, which is the paperback first came out. So I had some, movement there. But I knew that between book 3 and 4, it was going to know. So then I only had 3 books contract. So I had book 1, 2, 3. And so then by the time I got to 3, we were going up. So they gave me one more. They gave me one more book contract for book 4. Let's see where book 4 goes.
Yeah.
And then it just went from there. Whoosh, it went up. So I was
Yay.
like, okay, all right, I'm seeing that we are moving upwards in a good way. And that they were anxious to give me more. So that meant to me that, okay, I'm going to go here for the long haul. So I can take my time with these little character things. I don't have to make the big ones all at once. I can take the time.
Yeah.
And so that's how I kind of figured that out.
Okay.
So, but you know,
No, that's really interesting. Go
I'm
ahead,
actually,
Ashley.
I'm also surprised at how pragmatic that is. You know, your description of that is pretty devoid of emotion in a way that is very businesslike. And I am very excited about that.
well, I mean, and this is another thing that is maybe something that new writers should know. Publishing is a business. I
Mhm.
mean, whether you publish with a company or whether you self-publish, you have to have a return on investment because publishing is exhausting. It is
Mhm.
exhausting, as you know. It is hard to write a good book. And so, you know, publishers are not going to take time if you're, you know, no matter how good the book is. And there's a lot of writers who write fabulous books that don't make it big. And it's sad,
Sure.
but it's a business. So
Mhm.
if you're not pragmatic and you're not strategic about how you write and what you write and how you do things, it's not, you know, you're going to burn out because you're not making the money and you're putting all this effort and time. So you're going to burn out regardless of which way it goes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So if you want to publish happily and productively and lucratively, you have to consider this as a business. Yeah, it can be a hobby, but it also has, if you want to do it for something more than a hobby, you have to be strategic about how you do things. So
I had somebody talk to me yesterday that is potentially going to be doing an audiobook with my audio, and she was concerned because she had been through the publishing process once before and it was expensive, right? It's an expensive process. And she said, I think maybe what I want to do this time is just do an audiobook. And I said, that's legitimate, you know? Like I think I've told this story before on here, but there's a very famous book. I can never remember the name of it, that was started as an audiobook and then became so popular. It was that movie with Matt Damon where he's on Mars growing the potatoes.
Martian?
Yeah, it was an audiobook first. It was because
Really?
nobody
Not
would
that. That's
nobody would pick it. Be Audio did it, and nobody would pick it up. And so he did it, and then it became so popular, it then became written form, published, a movie. Come on.
Yeah.
So I mean,
There
even
you go. And this is how you're authentic to your process
That's
or
right.
your strategic vision.
That's right.
Yeah.
So even if you want to write a book, write the book. If you can't afford one genre, maybe just do an audiobook or an ebook or what have you, and try to get it out there because you don't have to just do it one way. And I love that. I love that. We're gonna do a couple of little light questions.
Okay.
Just fun
All right.
stuff. We want to know about your oops moments as a writer because listen, Lexi's had lots of oops moments, right? We've watched her practically destroy weddings and, we've watched a lot of things. We've watched her pants at the beach. Was it Xavier or
Elvis.
Elvis? Tell us, she's geeky and clumsy. I am similar. I understand. Tell us about your oops moment as a writer.
As a writer. Oh. Well, I mean, I'm human, so I make mistakes, writing words that I meant to write something else and said something else. So I've done that before. And my editor, thank God, most of the time has got the big ones.
Good.
One thing that was a big oops in writing was, I think it was the 8th book, No Strings Attached. I think that's the 8th book. There was a scene in there where they're escaping, like, I don't know, the Chinese embassy people or something, or I can't remember what they're escaping. But anyway, they're escaping something, and they go into jumps, not jumps. What is it when you start a car that you're not supposed to? Forgot.
Oh yeah.
Nope. Hot wire.
No, hot wire.
Thank you, hot wire. That was what I was
Sorry,
thinking.
my criminal background is really coming into
And-
focus now.
Yes. Well, so they hired a car and they go into this garage, and then I had in the text, I had that he had a bogus key, just so key, because they had to give the valet something. So I said, well, he had this bogus key that he gave the valet. Well, somewhere, and then what happens with authors in publishing traditionally is that we write the novel and we get feedback from our editors, but then after we read it after the developmental editor and we send it back in, we don't see it again. Like, I don't see it after the copy edits. I don't see it after the proof edits. I don't see it. But somewhere in there, one of the editors took out bogus. So they was like, he handed them a key. But he didn't start the thing with a key. He started with hotwired, but it got edited out. And then all these readers were like, oh, she messed this up. And I was like, but there's nothing
I did not. My editor did.
I could do because it was too late. But anyway, but then it looked like I didn't know what I was doing. So, and I was just like, yeah, I'm sorry about that. What can I say?
Yeah.
Not throwing anybody else under the bus, but I was like, okay, well, so I think that was like one of the biggest things that happened. But there's little mistakes. I think I forgot I think I mixed up somebody's middle name somewhere at one point. Somebody caught that. And, readers are very smart and very astute. And especially in series that they reread and they really like, you're going to be exposed.
Yes.
So you just have to kind of say, you're right. I'm human. I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we all missed it, but you're right. And I'll fix it in the next edition. So
yeah.
what do you say?
Well, tell me if Lexi were to break the fourth wall and give you feedback, what would she say?
It depends on when, at the beginning of her life or in the middle of her life.
Let's go right now.
Yeah,
where she is right now.
I think just like you said at the beginning, she would give me grace because that's
right.
what real, true, loyal friends do. They see you at your lowest. They see you when you're a hot mess, and they still give you grace and they still accept you for who you are at that moment, even if you're different and changed. There's reasons for that. And, you kind of go through the fire with people that you love, people that you're loyal to. And so, yeah, I think it's just, I liked how you said that the characters always give each other grace. And I'm glad that has come through because that's how I feel with all my friends.
Yeah,
they
me
give
too.
me grace, and I hope I give them grace.
I think that Lexi's learned to give grace because she's been accepted for who she is.
Exactly.
Right? And I
That's
love that.
absolutely
I
true.
love that. So 16 books now. If your readers were detectives, and actually I think I know a few of these answers, what clues would they find hidden about you in the series?
Ooh, that's a great question, Kristin.
That is a fabulous question. I can be geeky about things, some things, just like my family. I'm not as math and science geeky as they are. In fact, math was my worst subject ever. So that's why I loved making her such a math genius, because it's like, oh, see,
Yeah.
But I do have to get information about how to be a math genius from my family. So it's not me personally, but I also almost joined the CIA. So I was recruited. I was recruited for the CIA when I was in sophomore in college, and actually stayed with my handler up until I was in graduate school. That's why I came to DC for graduate school.
Oh my gosh.
But at the last minute, literally at the last minute, I had already seen my office that I was going to have in the CIA and all this other stuff. I got this great offer from Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, to be a journalist, international journalist, and I took that job right at the last second. And haven't looked back, haven't regretted it. But because I really was going to be in the CIA and kind of spy, I have a fondness for thriller, spy, this kind of stuff. And I actually, because I studied political science, international affairs, I know, I know that world. I know what it means to be an intelligence. I think I give more an authenticity because I really do know how the spy world works.
And not to mention all the languages you speak.
Just two.
I thought you spoke 3. You speak English, obviously, and then you speak
Russian and Polish.
Russian and Polish.
Oh, that's 3, Julie.
That's 3, Julie.
2 other than the regular one. 2 other than English. So yeah.
And Julie puts all of those accents into all of her books, and so
I'm sorry I did that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I have forgiven you a long time ago. But there are more accents in Julie's books than any book I've ever had, and I'm always like, Julie.
Yeah, this time
I don't know how to do this accent.
You texted me the last book. You said, "I can't believe how many accents. What are you doing?" I'm like, "Sorry."
I did hear about that on the back end too. Many accents. Yep.
Well, yes, there was. I won't give any spoilers, but there was a big gathering in one of the last 2 books, and because of that, all of the characters
Yes,
came together.
that's right.
So I had all of those accents all in one place having conversations.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part, is
Mhm.
going from, an Italian to a Southern to what else?
Military guy.
German,
Military guy, and, German. That's
military.
right, I forgot the German guy.
That's right. Yeah. That's always the hardest.
I'm sure
is
that would
going
make a fun dinner party, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I could have a dinner party all by myself.
You could. There you go.
So before we let you go, Julie, what can readers expect next? What's coming next? And are there going to be more books in the Lexi series that you're planning? Tell us a little more about the YA. What's coming next in that? Anything new? What's happening?
So, first of all, I retired from the day job in February.
Congratulations.
So I am officially retired from the day job. So now I can focus all my creative efforts and actually be rested somewhat, which is great. Then I have to be like creative on a half brain. So I do have a surprise for my readers coming up at the end of September, which I'm not going to reveal now, except to say that there is a surprise. And if you are on my Facebook readers group, there is a clue there.
Oh.
So you can see what the clue is. There. That's the surprise that's coming at the end of September. Also coming is, yes, there is another Lexi book that I'm already writing.
Exciting.
So that is happening as well. Not sure when that will be. And I do have a couple other surprises up my sleeve, but because everything is kind of in flux right now.
Can't
because
tell.
I've been really busy since I retired because my youngest son graduated from high school. So we had, he's in theater. So we had his final play, and then we had his, the graduation, and all his family came in, and there was summer vacation. And then I just got him off to college a couple of weeks ago. So empty nest.
How you doing, Mama?
But luckily, my mom and my sister and I are planning a trip to France.
They're going today, Ashley.
Yeah.
They're leaving today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've been planning that, and then my sister was here for a week, and my mom's been here, so I really haven't been alone yet for the empty nest part yet. So that'll be happening in September, and then I hope to sort of kind of get my schedule in order for what I'm planning to do. But I do have a surprise in September.
Wonderful. Well, we're excited. We'll have all the information about where to find you. You have, I have to say this, Julie has the best fans in the world.
I do. I really do.
They have a very active Facebook group.
Mhm.
And we'll put every place you can find her, where you can find her books, in the show notes. And a side story, when my mother died, her fans sent me a wind chime. And I still have it. I love it. It was so kind and so sweet and so unexpected. They've been so loving to me. To the point where I had to sit out a book, and they were like, "Don't ever do that again." It was another
They were
person.
mad. They were like,
were
"Don't do
real
that.
mad.
Don't do that again."
Yeah, they did. They were real mad. I had surgery on my jaw, so sorry.
No, I know. They all forgave you. They forgave you, and they just thought you went away. They didn't know. And I wasn't going to talk about your medical issue. So I just said, you had to step away, but they were like, "What?" They all
I had a massive surgery on my upper and lower jaw that essentially took 2 years. So basically, I had to step away for a book, and they're the most loving, kind, like just embrace you group. So I love Julie's fans. Thank you so much for being here, Julie.
Thank you for inviting me. That was really nice of you. Thank you.
Of course.
Julie, you're such a gem. We're so honored to work with you, and so honored to have you as a guest on Authors Aloud.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys.
Bye, Julie.
Bye, Julie.
Well, thank you, Julie Moffett, for being here. 16 books, endless adventures, and a heroine readers cannot get enough of. I absolutely love that series.
Yes, big thanks to Julie Moffett for joining us today and sharing her journey. If you haven't yet met her clumsy but brilliant detective, this is your sign to pick up book 1 and dive into the fun.
All the links, as I mentioned, her goodies, her book details, they're going to be in the show notes, so be sure to to check those out.
Thanks for tuning in to Authors Aloud. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and join us next time for more stories behind the stories.